Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight on episode 7, season 6 of the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're live on Wednesdays on Facebook and YouTube throughout the season. Richie is not here right now. He is running late because of work duties, so he is hoping to jump on with me at some stage. But as always, I've got Paul to help me out to at least change the tone of voices. So how are you going, Paul?
I'm doing good. I'm coming off the bench hot. I'll tell you, I'm ready. I'm ready, coach. Put me in.
So we talked last week about, I think one of the questions from the group was which team is going to get their, which one of the teams that hadn't won yet were going to get their first win. We made our predictions. I said the Eels weren't going to win till round 26, and then they won this week, and then the Dolphins won straight after them. So no winless teams anymore.
No, so the Eels got there first.
Yeah, they did get there first. So I think Richard picked that too. Oh, no, he picked Dolphins. Yep. So we both got it wrong. So that kind of goes with our trend. But yeah, how are you going? How was your weekend?
Oh, good, thank you. Obviously, I didn't watch any of the games, which makes me, which means I'll be more informed than Richie is normally. We'll be here right with you for this one to help you out while we're waiting for you to get back from work.
Yeah. So while we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, you can also catch our show at your convenience on iHeartRadio and Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of the round 5 matches. We'll then take a look at the ladder, the fantasy teams, and our tipping comp. We'll then stop and answer some questions from you guys as well as questions we've prepared for each other. Richard has answered my question if he's not here by then, and we've got a pretty video of him in his work car answering it. So if he's not here, we'll play that.
Each their own. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, and then we'll preview round 6 and make our picks. Richard sent me those two, again, in case he's not here. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show, and we may as well jump straight into the top stories of the week. It's always good when you're here for this to get your insights on everything going on in rugby league. We talked last week about the high contact crackdown and how we may have been lucky to have the Warriors skip this week in case the rest went a bit over the top. In the end, they had 8 sin bins. At least there wasn't a sin bin in every game. And there were 9 fines for high contact. Ricky Stewart came out, as he loves to do, and said that he's still confused around the NRL rules on a sin bin for a high contact. And Benji Marshall also chimed in as well and said he is also confused about the crackdown, but didn't want to say much as he didn't want to look like a whinger. And then the last coach to talk about it is actually potentially getting in trouble because the NRL may be looking at punishing Des Hasler for his post-match comments where he said the crackdown was uncalled for and spoils part of the game. So
the crackdown spoils people having their heads knocked off and having dementia after they've finished playing. Absolutely. I mean, I can see a man who's got his head screwed on there himself.
We all get that. Yeah, I think it's more trying to figure out what is and isn't a sin bin. I think that's what Richard and I talked about last week as well, where I'm all for it if it's consistent, but there were ones where it didn't look as bad as another one, and one got a penalty, one got a sin bin. So it's more, I think they didn't really say it in the right way, but I think they just want clarification on what is too far and what isn't and what have you. But the NRL haven't helped us. So I still honestly don't know. There's ones I see you go, that's surely a bin, and they go, nah, it's fine. And then see ones where you don't even notice it until the third replay and they're off.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, look, with human beings, there's always going to be inconsistency. The intent of this is the right thing. The execution may be leaving a little bit of desired. But I mean, with the bunker where you've got the same person in the bunker, or you should be able to have the same person in the bunker for all games, or at least 2 or 3, you should be able to get yourself consistency. It's not like you have it's not like where there's no bunker at all and it's different referees every single time. That should help out with consistency. But the bunker's always been a bit of a bone of contention, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think that is the problem because that is how they do it in the bunker. It is a different ref for every game.
Okay.
So I know there were people pushing saying we should have the same one in every game because they don't have to travel. They're sitting in a room in Sydney watching it on TV.
True. But how many games do you have in a day?
At most, you have 3.
That's still, you are
That's
still
still a lot.
looking. It's the sort of, you're still talking about, just game time without anything else. You are talking, it's about an hour and a half per game. So you're talking 4.5 hours just with game time. Add in your half times and stuff, and it's you're asking someone to concentrate solidly for the best part of 9 hours. It's a long time.
It's hard for Australians to concentrate at the best of times, so I can get it. And I see there's a lot of comments in the chat about the NRL buying the Super League. I did talk to Paul just before. There is a lot of rumors and news, but I haven't got it all, so I'm going to wait till next week till we've hopefully got some more. But yeah, you want to see it? Surely
we don't like speculation. We want to have facts here on this show.
I speculate all the time, but I don't want to speculate about that. And it's early in the show. I don't want to scare Jacko off with Super League talk. So hopefully we get a bit more. The only bit I know was they were looking at like a 30% buy-in, but they also want to have complete control. So that's as NRL as you get, where they only want a little bit of the buy-in, but they want to control the whole thing. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we get some more info. And Simon said his understanding is the NRL have criteria about the Super League that the Super League will have to allow the NRL to have decision-making power, no veto from individual clubs. And Jacko said, thanks, Brad. Stop it going on. So yeah, we'll probably talk about that a bit more next week when there's been a bit more news. But the next bit of news was Adam Reynolds.
Well, I was going to say, and Simon's talking about a movie that the NRL might put together. Now, clearly, as Brad and Richie will be on as cameos as the podcasters at some point during the movie. Currently, we can't speculate because obviously inside information. Yeah, we can't say.
But yeah, the kind of sort of Super League related. There's noise that Adam Reynolds may be forced out of the Broncos squad in 2026 due to salary cap issues. Super League Cubs are keeping an eye on the situation. I think if he wants to keep going, and the NRL team will pick him up. But it sounds like the Broncos were of the understanding that at his age, he was probably going to retire at the end of this year. And that's why they made a play for Ben Hunt. And now they got Ben Hunt. Reynolds isn't ready to hang the boots up yet. And they're not going to have the money to pay him because they've paid overs for a lot of their players. So will be interesting to see where he could go. There'll be a few teams that would be interested in taking a spin at him in the NRL, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, the obvious one is he doesn't even have to move house if he goes to the Dolphins.
Yeah. And Jacko said that Reynolds said he'll retire if the Broncos don't give him another year. Oh, there you go. So he'll retire, apparently. We've heard this before. We'll see.
Are they allowed to give him like a 4-year contract and he only actually plays the first year and then just pretends to train with the squad for the next 3?
There's heaps of dodgy things they can do.
If they've so that way they can actually give him some money, but over 4 years, he just spends the next 3 years as just pretending to train or coming down to training as an assistant coach.
A lot of them do deals where they'll go like, we'll give you a 1-year deal, but there's a guaranteed job for you after that 1 year if you are hanging the boots up with our club. I know there's a few grey areas with that in terms of breaching the salary cap, because it can be seen. You could say we can only afford to give you $200,000 a year, but you're going to get $4 million in your assistant coaching role the year after, type thing. Yep. So I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but that is stuff that's been busted before. Not with those figures, obviously, but ones where you're paying unders for a player, but you're paying them extremely well after footy. But yeah, we'll see what happens. And Jagger said he does want a coaching job at the Broncos. They're going to have someone there next year when they sack Madge after he loses his shit at all the players by the end of the season, like he normally does. But yeah, we'll move on. I got a whole lot of Manly stuff, Paul. There's a whole lot. They're very vocal since the DCE news. But the Sea Eagles owner, Scott Penn, has called for the NRL to introduce a player transfer window, saying it saves all the rubbish where you pick up the paper every day and read about players moving from here to there any time of the year. I can see what he's trying to say. He wants them to stop talking about DCE, basically, but that talk's never going to stop. Even if there's a window, before the window, there'll be all the rumors about who potentially could transfer, and then afterwards, who's going to transfer in the next one. So that conversation is never going to go away. The NRL media, people like us, are always going to be talking about the rumors and everything. Look at all the buzz that came around a few weeks ago when they were saying that the Warriors were potentially going for like a Kalen Ponga, and that all seems to have completely blown over now, but it hyped everything up for a little bit. So a transfer window, I can see the positives of it, but it's not going to stop the noise in the papers.
Look, I think he's going to get told very quickly, look, this provides media, this provides coverage, this provides content. We like it, we want it. As far as NRL is concerned, it's good for the game. People talking about the game. So, yeah, sorry, not going to happen.
Yeah, and the CEO from Manly, Tony Mistroff, is rumoured to be meeting with Channel 9 bosses to discuss his frustrations on why they allowed Dale Cherry Evans to appear on 100% footy and break the news that he's leaving the club. That one, it will be interesting to see what happens, because NRL 360 kind of broke the news first beforehand, and he was already labeled in to be on that show afterwards, and they were obviously going to ask him the question. So you can agree or disagree on if he should have said no comment or actually just said the question. His opinion was he just wanted to stop the noise by just saying it. So yeah, I don't think it'll probably go back to what you just said about the transfer window, about this stuff helps build it, the media, so he'll probably get told to jog on as well.
Yeah, I think so. Look, I mean, your problem isn't with 360. Your problem's with the player. If the 360s are, as you say, he's on the show, you're going to ask him the question. 360 has done their job. They provided entertainment for the fans. It's the player's fault on that one. Yeah,
and then the last one for Manly, there's rumours that they've offered a 2-year deal to Jamal Fogarty to replace DCE. So Jamal obviously doing pretty well in the Raiders. I'm not sure how comfortable they are on if Fogarty's going to stay. I know Ricky spoke about it a few weeks ago, saying that he's basically told him if there's a deal on the table that can really support your family, you got to take it. But he wants him to stay, but he knows how it's a business in the end of the day, so he understands if he does go. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. And Simon said, is Richard okay? He's just working. We're hoping he'll turn up at some point.
It's not okay. He's got his priorities wrong.
Well, yeah. I seem to be the only one out of all the people I do shows with that actually puts the shows before everything else. Don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm here. We'll have to wait and see if Jamal takes the option and goes to Manly or not, or if he sticks with the Raiders. Bjorn said Raiders are crazy to let him go. Look what happened to Souths. Yeah, if it was me, I'd be sticking, probably adding a bit more money to my offer to keep him at the Raiders if I was in charge, but I'm not. So we'll just have to wait and see until.
Look, it's a juggling act with the salary cap, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah. And then this one will be interesting because I'd like your input on this. Nothing's been confirmed yet, but there are rumors. There were rumors over the weekend that the NRL is requesting what topics 100% Footy and NRL 360 plan to discuss ahead of the show going to air, as they don't want them discussing refereeing or bunker issues. Paul, you're not really the league guy. You're the rugby guy. Would you like it if like Super Rugby or the All Blacks said on any of those rugby shows, we want to see what you're going to talk about, and this is what you can't talk about?
Look, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if New Zealand Rugby tried that. But look, I think you've got to realise that you're in an entertainment industry, and discussing that kind of stuff is part of the entertainment. Unfortunately, if you ban 360 from doing it, then somebody else will, and fans will just go and watch that instead. So rather than trying to control the narrative, how about try and control what they're talking about first and get that right? Therefore, there ain't anything to talk about. You're trying to solve the wrong problem.
Yeah, well, we talk about it. Refereeing mistakes happen. That we can admit they happen, but if they continue to happen, that's when you know there's a problem. But the coaches, the players, they're not allowed to talk about it at all. Otherwise, they get fined. So this is a place where you can have people that actually know the game as well, because a lot of them are former players, so they know the rules a bit better than show blogs like myself. So they can explain their interpretation of what's wrong with the rules, or like what happened. And yeah, if the NRL are like babysitting and saying, no, you can only do fluff pieces, basically, like you said, people will stop watching it and go elsewhere and go to this. A lot of places, a lot of podcasts, a lot of like YouTube shows from former players, guys like us, Bloke in a Bar and all that, that talk about NRL all the time. So a lot of people do just watch what they see on the internet instead of these shows anyway. But yeah, I don't like it.
Controlling what players and coaches say is one thing. Trying to control the media is a totally different one entirely on that one. So I'm sorry, but they've sort out the problem. Don't try and shackle the official media outlet. Yeah,
and Bjorn just reminded me that Buzz and Reedy are on those shows, and not to lump them in with the ones that know the game. Yeah, apologies. Not all of them. Buzz is always good for a time. They just bully him. I don't know if you've ever watched it, Paul.
Look,
he's very old.
If coaches, if coaches and players can't watch something and go, that's what the call's going to be, then you've got a problem with the calls at the end of the day. So you need to get your consistency so that your fan knows what the call is going to be. That's one of the problems with rugby union at the moment is that you look at something and just go, well, that could go one of three ways. And you can actually justify all three, which is wrong. No, you need just have it clear cut so you actually understand what's going to happen on that one. It's not China or Russia. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL has this kind of control over their media outlets. So look, it's not just China or Russia. I think sports don't tend to be capitalist in their nature. They tend to be much more socialist than they'd let you believe.
NFL is actually not that bad. They let quite a lot go. They even say, like what we're doing here, we could play full clips of NFL games on the show and go over highlights and stuff. NFL let it. They see it as any news is good news. They'll even let shows talk about so-and-so player murdered their girlfriend.
Yeah, look, it used to, they did try and control it, and then they saw how NBA let everything go, and they went, "Oh yeah, this that's
it actually builds viewership."
NBA was led on that one, but yes,
yeah, and the NRL, if we tried to play clips of the games here, they would strike us down with vengeance. Yep. So, I think there might be a time when they change and understand how things like this will benefit everybody. Even just a general discussion points, even if they don't agree with what's being discussed, the fact that NRL's being discussed. But we'll see. It's a bit hard with the two guys leading it. I feel like sometimes they're a bit thin-skinned, which I think Jacko has mentioned earlier. Especially if you watch, I don't mention it on the show, but Peter V'landys and his ongoing war with the AFL and some of the stuff he says, it's kind of like someone who's still hung up on their ex and won't stop talking about them. That's kind of how it feels with him. He just won't let it go.
Because at the end of the day, you've got a product you're selling. How about talking about the product you're selling, not about someone else's product?
So that's all the news I grabbed. I'm sure there's lots more as we keep seeing. There's stuff about the Western Bears no longer being a concept. I want to get more info on that because I keep reading that it's off and then it's on. So we'll wait till next week for that. So we'll go into signings. I've only got one, Paul. The Bulldogs have extended Jermaine Salmon until the end of 2027. So no big signings, just one extension. There might have been some more since then. But I tried to have a quick look before we went live and I couldn't see anything else. So it seemed like a no-brainer. I didn't really see another team being interested in picking him up. So may as well keep him.
If he's doing a job.
He's doing a job, yeah.
It comes down to the number, right?
Yeah.
Because being salary cap, whereas if you didn't have a salary cap, just spend as much as you like. But whether it's a good signing or not, well, that kind of one comes down purely to what the number is and who and where else can you spend the money, and we just don't know that.
Yeah. So we'll go into injuries. There are a bit more of that, as come the case every week. I didn't grab them all, but I grabbed the big ones. So Lindsay Collins from the Roosters, he did a medial ligament injury. He's going to be gone for 6 weeks, which makes their job a little bit harder. Cody Walker from the Rabbitohs has a low-grade hamstring strain. He's going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks. Jamie Humphries, their other half from the Rabbits, he's got a high-grade hamstring strain. He's gone for 4 to 5 weeks.
And that's bad having both at the same time.
Yeah, so both their halves gone. And then Ravalava, also from the Rabbits, on loan from the Dragons, he tore his hamstring and he's gone for 6 to 8 weeks. Poor Rabbits had a hell of a game in the weekend, losing everybody.
Yeah, that's about half the season gone for him. And he's on loan. Yeah. Jeez, poor guy.
And then the Knights had a similar week. Jacob Saifiti tore his calf. He actually tore his calf running out onto the field at the beginning of the game. There's no ETA on when he's going to be back, but I assume it's going to be a couple of weeks. James Schiller from the Knights, he failed his HIA, so he has got an 11-day stand down. And then Jack Hetherington, also from the Knights, injured his shoulder. No word yet on when he will be back. Knights also, like the Rabbits, they were just losing people. They ended up with a one-man bench in their game. Not a good day for the Knights. And then the last one was a late call-in. Zach Lomax from the Eels, fresh off winning his team's first game, he fractured his foot, so he is gone for 6 weeks. So a massive loss for the Eels. He's one of their strike weapons, and he's gone. Jumping
up and down, celebrating, and he goes and fractures his foot.
It was actually before it. He went for a field goal and kind of got clipped. And that, I think it was that clip that hurt him. So he got a wonky one on afterwards in Golden Point. So he still did enough, but unfortunate for him. So we'll move on to Naughty Boy Corner. We've got 4. Big Tino from the Titans, grade 2 careless high tackle. He got a 1-match ban. Corey Waddell from Seagulls, he got a grade 2 careless high tackle, 2-match ban. Ray Stone from the Dolphins, grade 2 careless high tackle, 1-match ban. And then Brendan Piakura from the Broncos, grade 2 careless high tackle, 2-match ban. He wouldn't have been playing anyway. After doing his high tackle, he tried to go low and he knocked himself out and got stretchered off the field. It was quite scary looking. So I imagine he was probably going to miss the next 2 weeks anyway. That was it.
So okay. So we're away from drop tackles now. We're into high tackles. A change of theme.
We changed them, and unfortunately, it was just one of those ones where he put his head in the wrong spot and connected temple to hip, and
across all of them. We've no drop tackles this week. All of them were high tackles.
All high tackles. Yeah. There was about another 9. Like a couple of $1,000 fines for high tackles as well. That didn't go into.
Clearly the crackdown is happening.
The crackdown is happening.
There was no fake news about. There's no kind of like announce it and not do it. So at least they're following through on what they've said, even if they're doing it inconsistently.
Exactly. So now we'll go into the round, starting with the Raiders defeating the Sharks 24-20. This is the fun part. I get to talk about the scores,
Well,
or do you want to say who
so,
scored?
the Raiders beat the Sharks 24-20. Tries from Nicholson, 2 from Young, 1 from Chris. Fogarty knocking over all of the conversions, and but they did lose Young to the sin bin. For the Sharks, Hirotoe, and then 2 from Nikora. Nico Hines also knocks over all of the conversions plus the penalty goal, but that was not enough to save the Sharks after it was all tied 18-all at half time.
Yeah. So it was a tight tussle throughout the 80, but the Raiders gave themselves a slight edge with their offload game and eventually got the job done in the dying stages with a crazy play. I know you wouldn't have watched it, Paul, but I'd recommend finding that final try. I think it got try of the week. It was just loosey-goosey football. They were just throwing the ball everywhere and then eventually got over. It's actually very reminiscent. Simon will remember. A few years back, the Warriors did the same thing to the Raiders to score the match winner. Roger got it, I think, at the end, where it just went through multiple hands and going all over the place before they finally found a hole. But they, the forwards were monsters in the middle, which made the offloads easier to release. They did make it harder on themselves with poor discipline, which could cost them a game or two in the future if they don't tone it down. I think that's where the sticky comments about wanting to know, get rid of the confusion about high shots and stuff. And so I said not even Odin could have done that try by himself. It was a fantastic try, and I was very happy about it because I had picked the Raiders to get this win, so I needed that for my tips. For the Sharks, they were in the fight, but they just lacked the creative spark to get them the win here. They made some poor fifth tackle options. It looked like it was going to go to Golden Point with the Sharks showing some guts to stop the Raiders from scoring in the dying stages. There was a few chances the Raiders had that they managed to stop. But then that crazy play that we just talked about was just too hard for them. So eventually they were just going to have to let them through, basically. Some fine-tuning on their attack, and this side will return to the winner's circle sooner rather than later. You know, you put the penalties there, your Raiders 7 to Sharks 2. And I don't know if you got the fantasy leader, but I went with Hudson Young as my player.
Got that wrong because Joseph Tapane led fantasy with 86 points.
I try not to go with fantasy a lot, especially now that we're doing a fantasy team show. And I went with the guy that got a sin bin, but he got a double and he made up for his sin bin. Well, he did all that before. He did enough work, and then he's like, I'm going to take some time off. So I'll give him that. And Jacko said Sharkies look stale, which is a worry early in the season. Yeah, they kind of looked a bit stagnant, which isn't what you want to see just after a month of the season, especially for one of the ones that were predicted to be big favourites with the addition of Adam Fanua-Blake. We'll move on to the next game. The Cowboys defeating the Panthers 22-18.
Yep, so for the Panthers, we had McLean, Targo, and Garner all in the first half, with Nathan Cleary knocking over the conversions. So they led 18-12 at half time. But the Cowboys, with Tuolangi, Valia, Purdue, and Tuolangi again, plus with 3 out of 4 conversions going over, turned around a half-time deficit to win 18-22 by nilling the Panthers in the second half.
Yeah, Cowboys didn't look pretty here, but they played with heart. They made the most of their opportunities with the ball in hand, and while it wasn't polished, it was enough to get the job done. They threw numbers at the Panthers in defense, and it seemed to rattle them. A big scalp for them here, and they need to build on it if they want to narrow the gap between them and the top 8. As I said to you before we went on before we went live and I was looking at the ladder, it's still real tight. So these teams not doing well at the moment can still make a comeback. But yeah, fantastic game from the Cowboys. As Jacko said after the game, Peyton looked like they'd won the grand final. It was a real must-win game for Peyton, basically. I feel like every game his career's on the line. So to be able to come out here and hit the Panthers while they're down, it was great. And they just need to build some confidence off this, really. And for the Panthers...
looking at the stats here,
Yeah.
The Cowboys trailed the Panthers in all of the attacking stats except tackle breaks. So that extra effort after you've been hit was the kind of looks like it was one of the big things for them in this game.
Yeah, and the Panthers, this outfit just looks like a shell of them for themselves at the moment. I know they only just lost this game, but they look down on confidence. They were error prone, and their defense is well below par. And even they couldn't even get the points when playing against 12 men, which is very un-Panthers like. Normally, they execute those types of situations well. I keep waiting for the unstoppable Panthers to appear again, but it just hasn't happened yet. And the only NRL team yet to win a game in Australia, as I told you before we went live, and they need to turn things around quickly if they want to defend their title.
Well, not only did they not score when Robson was off the sin bin, they also conceded a try as well. So I mean, they lost the sin bin. They lost the 10 minutes when they had when the opposition was down there.
And just completely not what we have come to expect from the Panthers. And Jagger said Panthers are on the decline. It had to happen sometime. I think the thing is, I was always expecting a decline, and we kind of talk about it at the beginning of every season, but I didn't expect this kind of decline. I expect maybe, you go from winning 4 in a row to getting knocked out in the game before the grand final or losing a grand final. Or
pre-game, we had a quick look at the tables, didn't we? And I don't know if you can remember that the number of games they've lost per year has been going over the past 4 years. I think you said
it has been going up, and it basically an extra loss every year. But they lost 7 last year and still ended second on the ladder.
So with 4 losses so far, they still could do it.
They're just trying to do it all early. Is that what you're saying?
But player of the match, Nathan Cleary, top fantasy was 71, and Jackson Purdue was top for the Cowboys with 61.
Yeah, and I went with Murray Talangi instead. I'm trying to stick away from those fantasy guys. He got a double. I'm just going with the doubles. And I think
it's the hat trick rule. It's not a double rule. I've
got to change it up. I think he led the Cowboys with line breaks as well. I think there was another stat I saw. So I went with him there. We'll move on to the final game on Friday. The Rabbits defeating the Roosters 20-14.
So for the Rabbits, we had Tassaloa in the first half, and then Gray and Tass in the second halves. With all 3 conversions knocked over by Latrell Mitchell. Plus, he also knocked over a penalty in that first half. So they led 8-6 at half time. The Roosters, the Smith brothers, so Sandon Smith and Billy Smith, both got tries, as did Dominic Young. But Sandon could only knock over 1 of the 3 conversions. So clearly kicking, as it ended up being 3 tries all, kicking was an issue for the Roosters in this one.
It'd be nice if they were actually brothers. And you wait till Brandon Smith comes back from injury and you can have all 3 Smiths out there. But all the talk leading into kickoff was the return of Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbits, and ultimately his boot proved the difference. The Rabbits faced adversity with the early exits of their halves pairing, but they kept the pressure on and forced the Roosters into making mistakes. Despite my preseason negativity, the Rabbits could be a finals contender. We just have to see how they fare without the first choice halves the next few rounds. This one would have been interesting for you, Paul, since you mixed these 2 teams up.
I wouldn't know what's going on. But whilst the Roosters look good on attack by looking at the stats, it looks like errors and penalties are their problem, with 7-16 and 6-11 on errors and penalties between these 2 teams. That Roosters did all the running, but gave up all the ball.
Yeah, and Roosters had a chance to win this, but as you just said, too many errors. They were dropping the ball, kicks going out on the full. You name it, they did it wrong. When the ball stuck, they looked dangerous with their backs making holes in the Rabbits' defense, but they just didn't ice the chances they made. Can be a dangerous team when they nail the 1%ers, but it wasn't their night. And I think Chad Townsend, I was meant to look at the team lineup. Chad Townsend's paid for it. He's been dropped, I believe, this week. No. Oh, yeah, he is. He's just on the extended. They've gone with Hugo Savala as their half. They've had enough of the Chad Townsend experiment now, the Roosters. So, tough for the seasoned veteran, but he was kind of brought there to be a stopgap, and he isn't filling that gap very well.
Oops.
And check his head, Chad is gone.
Players then, Sayua Wong, top fantasy with 80, which shows you that, I guess that comes from leading all the attack. Whereas Tavita Tatola was top for the Rabbitohs with only 48. That's perhaps the lowest, highest total we've seen for a team in a long time.
I'm a big fan of Tatola, but I went with Latrell. I felt like if everyone after this game was going to rave about him, I had to join the pack. But yeah, he got a penalty, three conversions, had a few of his dropouts, had luck on his side with how they worked out. A good first game back after being away for so long, and the Rabbits survived. I think I kind of wrote them off due to the fact that they would probably lose most of their games until he returned. In fact, they've done really well, and now he's back. They should go to another level. We'll see how he goes. You've got to do this every week. But, credit where credit's due. I thought he played well. We'll move on to Saturday, where we got our teams on their losing streaks finally getting over those humps, with the Eels doing it first, defeating the Dragons 23-22 in Golden Point.
Yeah, so first Golden Point of the season for the Eels pick it up. Josh Adokar, Lee Iongi, and Katoa. I'm butchering that name. Sorry, folks.
Katoga, I think.
Katoga,
it's the blind leading the blind here. So
for the Eels, Zach Lomax was perfect with the boot, with 3 conversions and 2 penalty goals, plus that field goal to win it with the Golden Point. For the Dragons, Clinton Gutherson got 2, and Christian Tuipulotu got the other one for them. And then Valentine Holmes was also perfect from the boot with 3 conversions and 2 penalties there. Both sides, though, missed field goals. So, not perfect with the boot, but a real tight one. The Dragons looking good at halftime, leading 8-14, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, hell of a contest, despite a stronger start by the Dragons. But the Eels were desperate to get rid of that losing streak and get their first win. And we're doing everything they could to make sure that happened. Jacko just mentioned it, but the inclusion of Dylan Walker added a new dimension to their attack and seemed to take pressure off Dylan Brown and Isaiah Iongi, who both had their best games of the season, which isn't really saying much with how they've gone this year. But Lomax was calm at the kicking tee and got his side to Golden Point with a nice penalty, and then securing the win with that field goal while having a fractured foot. This win could be the spark they needed as they wait for Moses' return, and they'll be hoping to get a few more wins before he comes back. But still not pretty, but when you've been losing every game, you're going to take whatever you can get. And I think I put it all down to Dylan Walker. Really, we've seen what he can do when he came off the bench for the Warriors, and he's just brought that to the Eels. And it just helps your halves out.
I'm guessing they've lost Zach Lomax with a fractured foot.
6 weeks, yeah.
So he's out for 6 weeks, and they're still waiting for Moses to come back. It's clearly your first win of the season was good, but it's still looking tough for them.
Yeah. Now, full credit, I wrote these notes on they were Monday, so I didn't know of the injury to Lomax at that point, so I saved myself a little bit. Jagger said Matheson was playing a cup, which is strange. Yeah, I assume he's going to be back. I didn't even look at their team this week, to be honest, so I don't know. But not pretty, but good win. And it seems like 1 step forward, 2 steps back with that injury, unfortunately. But for the Dragons, they started this match well and looked to be cruising to a certain victory when they went into the sheds at halftime. But in that second half, they left the door open for the Eels, and it looked like they started to panic a little towards the end. And they just couldn't close the match. Some poor discipline allowed the Eels to level it up. And then in Golden Point, they just couldn't shut Lomax down. The second time I've backed the Dragons this year, and the second time that they've lost when I picked them. So They're dead to me again. I know I was going to mention the news. Shane Flanagan, their coach, he kind of complained about Golden Point after his team lost, saying like it's just a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get. But I equate Golden Point as in a boxing or MMA, where if you let it go to the judges, you can't complain when you lose. It's up to you to win it before the bell. And yeah, unfortunately, the better team can sometimes end up losing in Golden Point. I don't think that was the case here. I think the Eels looked really good in comparison to the Dragons. So I think they just choked on this occasion, or maybe took the Eels lightly. I don't know.
So Zach Lomax has been named for the Eels in the upcoming game on the wing.
He has been named, but they said today that he's out, so they might not have updated the team list yet.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll see. But I went with Zach Lomax as my player to stand out because 3 conversions, 2 penalties, and a field goal, winning the game. Kind of hard to pick anyone else.
Well, except for 2 players, both got 2 tries in this, and so that's which obviously was your plan for the first 2 games, and that meant that they led fantasy. So Clinton Gustafson was top with 83, and Dylan Brown also got 81 to top for the Eels. So the try scorers.
I've got to keep you guessing with my thoughts here. So we'll move on to the next game. The Dolphins finally getting their first win as well, beating the Titans 36-10.
Yeah, for the Titans, it all came in the second half. They were nilled in the first half. Philip Sammy and AJ Brimson both got the tries. Jaden Campbell only knocked over 1 of the 2 conversions. They didn't help themselves by getting a sin bin in the first minute. That takes some doing. The Dolphins, on the other hand, took advantage of that with the Tabui Fidau try, and then also Safiti, Plath, Liamilu, Isako also chipped in with tries, and Jemiah Isako also knocked over 5 conversions and all 3 penalty goals as well to get 8 kicks out of 8. Oh, sorry, no, 8 kicks out of 9 because he did miss a field goal to go through there, to go through the post to win this one from 0-16 at halftime to 10-36 at full time.
Yeah, and so after the Eels win, the Dolphins were the only team left without a victory, and they played like a team desperate to hand Christian Wolf his first win as an NRL coach. Won pretty much all the stats and finally got their big names into the match, with Hammer causing the Titans plenty of problems. Defended well and just kept the Titans on the back foot. A much-needed win, as back-to-back matches against a hurting Panthers outfit and a scary Storm outfit could see them stuck at the bottom of the ladder. Probably will, to be honest. I don't see them coming out. They might surprise the Panthers, with the Panthers at an all-time low right now. But, I think they just thoroughly outplayed them. The Titans, they got those 2 tries, and just after the hour mark, basically. So the game was pretty much over at that point. And
dead and buried. They did lead on 2 stats though. Which dummy passes 27-1. So perhaps stop dummying and actually doing might help. And also kick meters 533 to 496. But if you're looking at topping stats, those aren't the 2 that you want to be leading on, is it?
No. And the Titans look shell shocked right from kickoff. That sin bin in the first minute doesn't help you. But I'm not sure if they just expected the Dolphins to roll over or not. They lacked any attacking threat for the first hour, and were just constantly under the pump. That kind of helps your kicking meters when you're having to play more of the field than the other team, because you're always stuck in your own end. The defense was back to what we've come to expect. I feel like since we started doing this show, where they're just not very good defenders. They tightened things up for a little bit this year, but it kind of loosened out again. A tough defeat for them to stomach at home, and they'll need to find that attacking fire again and sort out the defensive line. And my player to stand out, I went with Isako.
What? Daniel Safiti topped with 79 points on fantasy. A prop who with all the work rate they go through and then getting a try is always going to do well in that bit.
Best players on the field all the time. Then we go to the final game on Saturday, the Broncos defeating the Tigers 46-24.
Yeah, this one was tight at half-time at 14-12. For the Broncos, we had Arthurs opening this try scoring, and he also got a second. Wilson also got 2. Reynolds got 1. Walters got 1. And Shabaski, thank you. Also chipped him as well. Adam Reynolds, a great night with the boot, 7 conversions, a penalty, and a field goal as well.
They weren't all him. You're not reading it right. He went off injured.
Sorry. Adam Reynolds got 4 conversions. Reece Walsh knocked over the other 3. Reece Walsh also got the penalty goal, but Adam Reynolds did get the field goal.
2 points.
Sorry, you're quite right. Yes, I'm. Oh dear, I was doing so well.
You're doing so well. You're butchering the stats and the names now. I see. It's
the Tigers then had Louis Light got Turova, Toa, Finu. Toa also got a second one. Only 2 out of the 5 conversions went over for Apsai. Oh God, I can't read it. You've said it so many times, I do recognise it, but I can't say it. Help me out here, please.
Carousel.
Thank you. It's so easy to say and just doesn't match the letters with my dyslexic views. I'm sorry, I am dyslexic. I do have problems sometimes.
It's Fijian. It's always had.
Of course, The Tigers did get a sin bin, but on 79 minutes, let's be honest, the game was over by that point.
Yeah. A big performance from one of our preseason contenders. It looked like it was going to be a real tight tussle in a pretty even first half, but the Broncos found another gear in that second half and just never looked back. Still a bit error-prone, but Reece Walsh looked more confident, and when Reynolds left the field, the rest of the Broncos stars stepped up and made up for his absence. A scary performance from one of the season's title contenders. Felt like they were kind of back to what we all expected.
But to do that and have a tackle and have a completion rate of only 72%, and actually the trail on, the Tigers led run meters, the number of runs, and a number of other stats. So it wasn't so to have got that kind of result when not dominating the stats, also impressive.
Yeah. And then for the Tigers, a bit of a wake-up call for them. They've been good so far this season, with everyone praising their defense, but this was a big test of that, and they failed it. They showed spirit and refused to quit. I'll give them that. And they made a game of it in the first half, but they just couldn't stop that Broncos onslaught in the second. Terrell May was a highlight with another strong game, but put in the brass tacks, they were just outmatched and outplayed. Unfortunately, I love them to bits, but yeah, hopefully they bounce back. But any other stats before I say who I'm picking for my player of the day?
I was going to say, actually, for the Broncos to win this so convincingly, having done 14-9 errors and 9 penalties to 6 penalties, again, shows how clinical they were for that one. As far as players go, again, this was a low-scoring one with Xavier Wilson topping with 59 points.
Yeah, he's who I picked because, another one that got a double. So,
and a couple of line breaks too.
And a couple of line breaks. We'll then go to the first game on Sunday. The Storm defeating the Sea Eagles 48-24.
Wow, yes. This one was 10-18 at halftime, and then kind of really another one that blew out. Yes, they had the lead, but then they definitely dominated in the second half. For the Sea Eagles,
Kula
got 2 tries. Sab also got 1, and
Falala. Yeah.
Falala. Those 2 though, actually, fully all 3 of those tries after the hour mark. Once the game was well dead and buried. Garrick got 2 out of 4 of his conversions, and also knocked over 2 penalties as well. For the Storm though,
Utukamanu,
thank you. Munster, Anderson got 2. Pappenheisen, Anderson, Garlic, and
Howarth.
For the try scorers, 8 in all. Pappenheisen knocking over 7 of the conversions, and Will Short knocking over the last one. to a perfect day with the boot for a comfortable win by the Storm.
Yeah, another title contender making a statement here. The Storm looked dangerous. The return of Jerome Hughes after having only 1 week out with a broken hand just made them more lethal and the spines clicking. Still a few too many errors, but they defended their mistakes and only gave the Sea Eagles a sniff at the back end of the game when they took their big names off. That's another thing that's not in the stats. Hughes, Poppenhausen, and a few other players all came off early to rest them up. So that kind of helped the Sea Eagles get back into the game. Had me very worried for the Warriors this week, having to play the Storm after a game like this. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Any stats you want to rattle off before I talk about Manly?
Well, just the point about, as you say, before they took their players off, this was 10-48, right? So this was well and truly finished. The actually 24-48 makes it sound closer than the game really was.
Yeah. And yeah, Manly just seemed clunky and not on the same page. Missed the extra punch they get from Tommy Turbo. The forwards were busy up front, but the side just couldn't keep up with the Storm, with their defense falling apart in patches of the contest. We're just outplayed on the night and need a bounce back this week against the Sharks. Be an interesting game. Sharks, Sea Eagles this week. They both are desperate for the win. So we'll see what happens. This one was actually easy. Grant Anderson was my player. He got a hat trick. So hat trick rule in effect.
And he also got 4 line breaks. But so did Tuataku Kulau. He also got 4 line breaks and topped fantasy with 81 points. Stefano topped for the Storm with 68 points. And yes, sorry, I have been I bottled his surname. Sorry,
everyone. You just ruining everyone's names here. The only one you got was Anderson, really. And Jacko said the DC dramas may be hurting Manly. I think that is it. When we talked about it when that news came out, where he said he was leaving. He's been there forever. He's their leader. Maybe the subconsciously or even just consciously, the team may be giving up on him. I don't know. He definitely didn't have his best game either. But yeah, we'll see if this is the beginning of the end for them with how they bounce back this week. And then last game, Paul, Bulldogs defeating the Knights 20-0.
Was it raining for this one?
I don't think so. It may have been. It's always hard to tell watching it on TV because some of the far out shots.
If it wasn't raining enough that you could see on TV, there is no excuse for this. At half time, this was 2-0. Right, 2-0. This is not football.
NRL said it was fine weather, so it was just a grime fest, Paul.
So absolutely no excuse for this. If you're in fine weather, it should not be 2-0 at half time. We are not talking football, we're talking. We're not talking soccer. We're talking a proper football code here. For the Bulldogs, Josh Curran, Jack Todd, Kurt Mann got their 3 tries, and Stephen Crichton knocked over all 3 penalties as well as all 3 conversions, as well as getting a penalty goal as well. The Knights did me a favour with the whole name pronunciation thing by not bothering to score any points at all in this one, as the Bulldogs won it 20-0. The Knights did pick up a sin bin for Crossland in the second half there, which didn't help their cause. But I don't think that was the biggest of their problems.
Yeah. Now, see this before I talk about the problem you get there with the 2-0 is you've got the best defensive side in the NRL. So the Knights can't score against the best defense, but the Bulldogs' attack isn't really that pretty. So they can struggle to score their own points. So 2-0 is kind of what I expect from them sometimes. I'm not as high on the Bulldogs as other people.
You're having a crack at the Knights there. So points against, the Bulldogs are the lowest with 58. The second lowest is the Knights with 66. So actually you got the 2 best defences in the league going head to head. To be fair, the Knights only played 4 games, not 5 though.
Yeah, and like Jacko said, Doggy fans think they've won the grand final already. Yeah, I love them sometimes. I know some. I used to be a Doggies fan before the Warriors even existed. but I don't actually rate them as highly as a lot of other people.
I'm not racist. I have some black friends. No. Yeah, I'm not anti-doggies. I've got some doggy friends.
And I used to be a doggy. Yeah, I don't rate them as highly as a lot of other people do, because I know defense wins championships, but you got to score points too. And I don't think they're as good on the attacking side of things, but they may prove me wrong. And Simon did say there was a Super League match early in the year that ended 1-0. It was Wigan won that 1-0 in Golden Point. Not really a glowing promotion of the game. But yeah, it was a tough grind fest to end the round here. The Bulldogs' attack didn't look that flash, with them making plenty of errors, as I've already kind of rambled on about, and they fumbled some opportunities, but they did dig deep and got a few tries in the second half to secure the win. The first try from Curran was kind of a fluke almost. Just right place, right time to dive on the loose ball. But that kind of seemed to inject them. And Bjorn said, worst thing I've ever heard Brad say, that I used to be a Doggies fan, or?
I think so, yeah. I think it was the Doggies.
There's lots of stuff I say on here. In my defense, the Warriors didn't exist. So they kept all the Knights' weapons quiet throughout the match with their defense, and they just never allowed the Knights a sniff. I still want to see how this side's defense goes against top sides of the comp. If you look at the draw so far, the Bulldogs haven't really had to play any of the real big names yet. We'll see, can they do this defense against the Storm or the Broncos with how they're playing at the moment? I don't know. But yeah, credit where credit's due. They're the only undefeated team left, so you got to give them some kudos for that.
Yeah, but if you look at as you say, look at the schedule. They have the Dragons, the Titans, the Eels, the Sharks, and now the Knights. So the
first three are bottom four teams.
The Titans are in eighth, are the highest team they've played so far.
Yeah. And yeah, Jagger said they are in a retirement league, so they probably missed their afternoon nap. Leave my Wigan alone. And Bjorn said Curran's looking so fit and playing well. Smoky for Origin. Potentially, we'll see. He's always on the cusp, I feel, even back in the Warriors days. But yeah, any stats you want to talk about before I go in depth into all the amazing things the Knights did?
14 by the Bulldogs was better than Knights with 15, which shows you, with 29 errors, this was not a champagne game.
Yeah, and the Knights, they were just forced into errors and too ill-disciplined to build any pressure, and they struggled all game to find a hole in that Bulldogs defense and just couldn't crack it. Walking away without scoring any points will be a tough pill to swallow, and they need to work on their creativity this week before the Tigers game. They need to get their strike weapons involved again, which, no shit, Sherlock kind of thing. My player to stand out was Jacob Preston.
Well, and Adam Elliott was top for fantasy with 65, but Jacob
I'll
Preston
never pick him.
Jacob Preston, and he was on the losing side, whereas Jacob Preston for the top for the Bulldogs with 57. So not as low as the 40 something we had earlier in the round, but still, that's not a lot of fantasy points.
Yeah, and I went with Jacob Preston. He just does all the grunt work, which doesn't always get appreciated in tries and things like that. Jacko said Ponga was MIA. And some people want him at the Wires. I feel like the Warriors, the rest of the side's a better team to help him out in that situation if that was the case. But he needs time and space to do what he does, and that's one thing the Bulldogs refuse to give them. Which is how you shut players like him and Reece Walsh down, to be honest. Give them no time and no space.
So they had an early injury which didn't help them.
They had injuries everywhere. Like I said, they ended up with one.
Yeah, with James Schiller going off in the first minute. And McEwen, who is a SR, second rower, having to play out on the wing. Look, they had players out of position. So yeah, clearly it was something. Oh, sorry, yeah. So they lost Charlotte after 1 minute. They lost Safiti after 2 minutes. He had 2 players gone in the first before the whistle had already been blown. Real tough.
And so Fidi's one of their leaders up the front, and like I said, he tore his calf running out onto the field before kickoff. So
I don't think I was maybe I wasn't listening to what your match report. I was just looking for stats for you.
But yeah, that was the round. So we go and look at the ladder, Paul. Bulldogs, as I said, undefeated, so they're at the top on 10 points. Broncos are second on 8, Storm third on 8, Warriors fourth on 8, top 4, baby. Rabbits are the last team on 8 points at 5th, and then 6, 7, and 8 is Seagulls, Raiders, and Titans, all on 6 points. Knights just out of the 8 on 6 points as well. Then we got
hang on, 10, you get to the top 8. I get to do the bottom. I get to do
fine. You do it.
Knights on 6, Sharks on the Sharks, Tigers, and Dragons and Cowboys all on 4 points, and then we have our group at the bottom who have all got their 1 win. The Dolphins, Panthers, Roosters, and Eels all on 2 points, and none of them because of a bye. At least they've all actually got a win so far.
Yeah, it's crazy to have the Panthers that far down. And Bjorn said, bring back Hastings. I was going to mention the rumor at the moment. The rumor is the Knights desperately want Dylan Brown now, and they were trying to give the Eels Hastings, and the Eels do not want him. So, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, interesting ladder. It's still early days. So anything could happen, but it's nice to see us in the top 4, especially with 2 games where I think the Warriors are going to lose back to back. With my negative thoughts creeping in, because they've got the Storm and Broncos back to back. Which is a bit daunting. But yeah, fantasy teams. It took me a long time to get Richard's screenshot this week because he's not doing well. He got 626 points. He's still 145th basically in the comp. I got 824. I still lost my one-on-one game, so it doesn't matter. And I'm in the top 54,000. A lot of those guys I talked about nicely are in my team. So you'll feel patterns. Ponga, as Jacko said, was MIA. Ponga cost me my game. I was relying on him to have a big game at the last match to win me the whole thing, and he got 25. So not good. Tipping, Paul. Basically, everyone either got 5 or 4. A lot of people got stitched up by the upsets. I think, looking at how it is, I think the guys that got 5 all were the ones that picked the Raiders to win that first game. Looking at, I know what I picked, and I know ACT, Hellcat, and Simon are Raiders fans, and they got 5 as well. So I feel like that might be the one that everyone was split on. I think the games like the 2 losing streak teams and the Panthers, I think a lot of people got those ones wrong. But yeah, ACT Hellcat still at the top on 27, tied with Bjorn, who's second on 27. Michael Pazzuto is 26. Harry Poppins 25 on 4th. Simon is 5th on 24. I'm 6th on 24. Richie's son is 7th on 23. Hammer is 23 on 8. And then heaps more. We've got a new addition, you'll notice. We've got 12. The Urk is back. They were in our comp last year. They joined up during the week, and it counts all your games that have already gone, so they don't fall behind. And Richie is still dead last.
Richie's lucky that it's all on one page. Otherwise, we'd have to change pages.
We'd have to scroll, yeah.
And as far as the multi went, we had a 5-game multi, which started off with the Panthers losing, and that lost the multi because we got all the other 4 correct, with the Rabbitohs, Broncos, Storm, and Bulldogs winning. But unfortunately, as I say, it was all gone before it even started.
Because of those bloody Panthers. So we'll go into questions. I see you had at least one.
Yes, one question from Bjorn. What is your opinion on international and SSO qualification conversations that are happening currently? So what are the conversations first before we get into the answer?
We had the talks about Payne Haas and a few other players defecting from Australia to play for Samoa, and the Australians are getting a bit upset that all their players are leaving to play for other countries, and saying like they shouldn't be allowed to play Origin if they want to play for the island nations. And it's come up again saying it's kind of unfair that every country on the planet can play State of Origin except for England and New Zealand, and they want to say like if you qualify,
if you play for England from the Northern Hemisphere, how you can be from State of Origin?
Well, Victor Radley plays for England, and he was born and bred in Sydney and qualifies for Origin, but he plays for England on his grandfather's side, but because of that, he's not allowed to play Origin. So I don't mind them opening up the eligibility in terms of if you are in New Zealand or in Australia before the age of 13, which is how it is with some of the island representatives that are New Zealand born but are playing for Samoa and Tonga. If they've been in Australia since before the age of 13, they qualify. I don't mind it in that, say, like a Kalen Ponga, for example, if he qualifies but he wants to play for New Zealand, I don't see that issue, only because it's selfish as a New Zealander. We're losing a lot of our talent because there's a loophole where you can say, I don't want to play for the Kiwis, I'll play for Tonga or Samoa, and I can play Origin where I get my $30,000 a match if I make it, compared to I think it's like $3,000 a game for internationals. So it gets it. And Jagger said Big Mal's getting shirty as some want to play for Tonga Samoa, but the rules right now actually hurt Kiwis and Ponds. Yeah, that's where I think the conversation's coming up. The Australians don't care as long as it's keeping the Kangaroos strong. But at the moment, the Kangaroos are losing some big names, and now they're worried. But we talked about it when Adam Whenua-Blake, Jason Taumalolo, David Fusatua, they all said we're not playing Kiwis, we're playing for Tonga. The Australians did not care. Like, oh, that's great for the international game, but yeah, now it's hurting them. They're like, oh, actually, we need to look at this. So yeah, I've got no horse in the race, so I don't really care.
Rules the same as the international rules?
Kind of. Well, no, internationals, no, not really. Internationals are very loosey-goosey. Because of how it is. There was another question from Bjorn about Joker rounds, saying he can't see the option. I'm just actually going in our settings to see. I don't even know where you see to turn them on, but they are on, I believe. This makes for great footy. So when you go to the bottom of your tips, there's a little button that says Joker at the bottom right. So you click that and it makes you Joker. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to make it my Joker round. But yeah, it is there. It's just at the bottom right when you're picking.
The eligibility rules for international NRL apparently are the nation in which you're born, obviously, the nation in which either of your parents were born, again, and the nation in which your grandparents were born, a nation in which they've resided for each of the preceding 60 months or 5 years, basically. So Origin is slightly different in that it's where you're born or where you were before 13. Did you say?
Yeah. So if you were in there playing footy before 13, I believe was the age, like the cutoff. That's for those like kids that have moved from New Zealand and stuff. If they're playing like schoolboy league over there, they qualify. Guys like Benji Marshall and that played like New South Wales age grade. But they didn't want to play Origin. They wanted to play for the Kiwis, thankfully. And even Bjorn said he'll check it out. Let me know if it's still not working for you, and I'll have to do a step-by-step to help you, I guess. But yeah, was that all the questions people asked us? Yep,
plus also the Brad IT help desk.
It's my real job coming into this is my separation. I don't like it. So I'll go with Richard's question to me first. We'll save his beautiful picture or video to the end. But he said, we're slowly creeping towards rep time. If selecting your squad today, who is your fullback for Queensland? I think it's still Reece Walsh. I know he's been a bit down in form, but he seems to be getting back into what we used to. So I think they'll just go with him. And so that's it.
Who else would you consider as being challengers?
Well, it's him or Kalen Ponga, really. And yeah, I think they're going to go with Walsh, especially since Kalen Ponga keeps talking about wanting to rather be a New Zealander. So I don't know if they'll pick him.
And didn't show up last week.
Yeah, and Bjorn said been in Australia too long. Yeah. Did you turn it on first?
Brad's very much in New Zealand.
Yeah.
He I'm not sure he even has a passport. He just doesn't like to. Yeah.
I've got one. I do leave. I leave the country occasionally, just not very often. Has to be in the off season.
Obviously.
And so my question to Richie was, the Panthers have had a falling from grace this season. Do you think they'll turn it around and be title contenders, or are you going to write them off? Yeah, before you bring up video, Bjorn said Ponga for me, he was playing really well until last week. Yeah. I still want to see him play for the Kiwis. So I'm hoping they don't pick him, and that's another one. So let's see if you can bring up this video for...
No, I will do in a second, but let's so remember we had a quick chat beforehand about how they lost 7 games last season. They've lost 4 so far this season. So from a purely statistical point of view, it is still on. But let's be honest, the game is not won on paper. The game is won on the grass.
Thanks for the question. No, I'm not willing to write the Panthers off just yet. I've had a lot of evidence over the past half decade that they're a big game team with big game players. Their depth might not be what it once was, but I'm pretty confident they get To'o, Edwards, guys like that back. The ship starts to steady itself and they'll be contending again. Whether or not top 4, I'm not sure. They're dropping 4 of your first 5 might make that a little tougher, but certainly confident of top 8 at the least. And once they get there, we know what they do come September time. So definitely not writing them off just yet.
But I would add onto that one, Brad, is that we've said in the last couple of seasons that one of the things that's helped the Panthers in the final series is Nathan Cleary basically having a mid-season break with an injury. Yeah. I would suggest that perhaps they can't afford that this time around. Perhaps whilst they might make finals, that'll hurt them from then onwards.
Yeah, I've written them off. Probably wrong. Every time I do it, a team comes back to life, but I could see them still, I still see them as a top 8 team playing finals, but I don't think I will put them in the conversation of winning a title this year. I just can't see it. As Jagger said, they're leaking points like a sieve, like a sieve. And yeah, you just can't do that. That's what they've kind of built their bread and butter on in this like massive dynasty they've had, is just being, great defenders and great at fighting the adversity. And yeah, they're just not doing that now. And Bjorn asked if that was a sponsor beanie. I know we should ask Richard if his work wants to pay us money. I can't find my Ingers League wrap-up beanie. I don't know where it was. It was a bit cold this morning. I was looking for it.
I hadn't noticed what was on there, but I was having a quick look. Yeah, as you say, he's got his work beanie on. So I've taken off all my work paraphernalia, so you can't tell who I work for. But yeah, there we go.
Once we get into cold, I think my work hoodie will be coming back. We'll wait.
I was going to say this is just showing the amateur performer that Richie really is.
I'm just a sucker for merchandise. I'll plug anybody. So we'll go into round 6.
And you've got your Ruin Hammer t-shirt on, probably.
No, I've got my New York Giants shirt on. The Warriors have officially won more games already this year than the Giants did in their whole season. So they got 2 wins in the last season. So
you like following a loser?
Yeah, they've at least won titles for me. So it's just been a long time. But yeah, we'll go into the next round. We'll start with the Warriors Storm game and the team list. Do you want to Do you want to say the Warriors team or do you want to say the Storm team?
Well, you take the normal one, and I'll take the other one. You normally do Warriors, don't you?
No, I normally do the Storm.
Okay. So for the Warriors, we got CNK at fullback with RTS and with both actual first choice wingers off injured. We've got Tupiki on one wing and Adam Pompey on the other, meaning that we've got Berry and Liatua in the centres. So very much a patched back line. Chanel, Harris DeVita, and Luke Metcalf are in the halves. Up front, Fisher Harris, Egan, and Barnett in the front row. Capewell, Nikuri in the engine room, and Clark as the I was going to say number 8, but I'm not sure.
Same thing. Yeah, locks effectively in number 8.
On the interchange, you've got a Foa, Ford, via Munga, and Haliasima.
Yeah. And then we don't talk about the extended bench because it doesn't really matter. It's the same team they announced for the last game. Obviously, Dylan Walker was there instead of Bunty because it was named before he left. And Rocco Berry was meant to play in the last game but hurt himself beforehand. So I'm not surprised. Jacko said he thinks Webster will change the bench before kickoff. Don't know why, just a feeling. Yeah, seeing Tanner Boyd at 18, I have a feeling he might sneak in for a Foa, potentially. He's a bit more versatile. I don't know. They might decide they don't want to throw him on there to possibly not even use him. I don't know. I'm happy enough with the team. As Bjorn said, against the Storm, you're never confident. They are currently on a 16-game winning streak against the Warriors. We only beat them in finals and preseason at the moment. So, it's always a daunting task, especially over there. We had that heartbreaker round 2 last year where we had the game in the bag and they scored a miracle try in the dying seconds. So I'm hoping, but I'm not confident. So I am picking I'm picking Melbourne. Looking at Richard's tips, he's picked Melbourne as well. And I'll go over Melbourne's team before we go on. At fullback, they've got Ryan Poppenhausen. On the wings, they've got Grant Anderson and Xavier Coates. Centres, they've got Jack Howarth and Moses Leo. He played last week as well. Sevens player, Paul. Played for the Black, what do we call the New Zealand boys sevens team?
They're just good question.
The All Black Sevens.
All Black
they don't have a
Sevens.
fancy team. Yeah. So it's his second game. He followed Walbrook there. In the halves, we've got Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes. Front row, we've got Stefano Utokamanu, Harry Grant, Josh King. Second row is Sean Bloor and Elisa Katoa. Lock is Trent Lorero. And then the bench, we've got Tyrone Wishart, Alec McDonald, Tua Kamika, and Bronson Garlick. So pretty good Storm team. No Nelson Asafa Solomona, which Jacko's just mentioned, which is great because he always carves the Warriors up when he plays us. He hates the Warriors. So good to see him out there. But yeah, fingers crossed we get the job done. I'm thinking about my tips rather than my heart. So I'm going Storm here. Again, hope I'm proven wrong like I was when I picked Manly. So are you locking that into the multi, Paul?
This is a Storm absolutely all the way, I'm afraid. $1.15 to $5.60 by the Warriors. Look, I mean, the Warriors are only high in the table at the moment, but as we've said, the Storm are higher than them, and they're for a good reason.
Yeah. So we'll look at the rest of the round. Kicking off on Thursday, we have the Dolphins and the Panthers. I've gone for the Panthers, and so has Richard. I just think I keep saying it every week, there's no way they'll lose another one in a row. Surely if they're going to break this losing streak, it's going to be against the Dolphins, who have just got a win. I feel if the Dolphins get this win here, we can write the Panthers off straight away.
Oh, look, it's one where I know I should say yes, just put it in the multi, because how can they not win this? But off their
they keep costing us multis.
They keep costing us multis, and they're away from home still. So so far, their only win was, well, I guess their only win was at home, but that was in that was in LA. So yeah, and the Dolphins' only win is away from home. Look, I'm just so uncertain as to who the hell who is the least worst. I mean, it's not like who's going to win this game. It's like who is not going to lose the game, and therefore I don't feel confident enough to throw that in the multi.
All right. Then Friday we got the Dragons, the Titans. I've gone with the Titans, and Richie has gone for the Dragons. I just can't do it. Every time I pick them, they lose, which I guess because I want them to be the wooden spoon, I should pick them every week if that is the pattern. But I want to win the tipping comp, so I'm just going with the Titans. The Dragons should win this by all counts, but they've just done me dirty too much.
They should win this one, and they are favourites at $1.60 to the Titans $2.35. But to be fair, the Titans are in 8th, and the Dragons are down in 12th. So actually, they are ahead of them in the table. So, but it is at home for the Dragons for this one.
You can't put it on the multi anyway because we both disagreed. So
no, but I would like to.
Yeah. Then the next game of Friday, we've got Broncos Roosters. Richie and I have both gone Broncos. I think Broncos at home, Roosters got a young half in there.
For a reason. Roosters second from bottom of the table for a reason. Yeah.
And then first game of Saturday, we've got Sharks Seagulls. We have both gone the Sharks. Think Seagulls, without Tommy Turbo, it's always tough. So I'm giving the Sharks the edge at home.
The TAB agrees at $1.48 compared to $2.65 for the Eagles.
In next game, we've got Rabbits and Cowboys. I've gone with the Rabbits, and so has Richard. I know they've lost some big names, but I just think at home they're going to beat the Cowboys.
Okay, that is, I'm pulling this one from the.
That's fair. I expected that
from this one. With those injuries. Admittedly, the Rabbits are 3-0 at home, and
Latrell will carry them to victory. He's the greatest player that's ever lived, if you listen to all the media. So,
well, look, I mean, okay, fine. Look, we've got our issues with him off the field, but on the field, look, he delivered the goods last weekend. He's a decent player. He's not as good as people make him out to be, but he's a good player. But even so, I'm not willing to risk my money on this one. As the Cowboys are favourites at $1.75.
Yeah, I think they shot at the favourites because the Rabbits have lost both their halves. And I'm pretty sure Lewis Dodd, who was the UK boy they brought over, is also injured. So their second choice half right now is also out. I don't know who they're named. I think they put this is great. I'm trying to find it again. Where are they? Rabbits Cowboys, there it is. Yeah, they've actually got Latrell Mitchell in the halves for this. It's him and Jaden Sullivan as their halves pairing. So we'll see. Next game though was Eels Raiders. We have both gone with the Raiders. Eels just lost Zach Lomax. I don't see them winning without Zach Lomax. So Raiders will win this one.
Yeah, with that injury, look, it looked great for them to get the win. Great for morale, but as you say, the one of the key players, no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bjorn said he's suspended. Yeah. Sorry, it wasn't an injury. He got suspended for a crusher tackle in reserve grade just when he was about to get his chance in first grade. So,
who was this? Sorry,
Lewis Dodd, the Rabbitohs half that was going to get the call up. He got suspended.
Duh.
Worst possible timing. And Sunday we have the Storm Warriors, which we already talked about. Richie and I both picked Storm.
Yep.
And then the last game is Knights Tigers, and I've gone with the Knights, and Richard's gone with the Tigers. So that's off the multi anyway. I basically went with who's at home.
And look, I mean, the Knights have won their only game at home so far. Whereas, look, the Tigers have got 2 wins this season, and where were those wins? Away from home.
Yeah.
So look, this is one that I would have pulled from the from the multi anyway, because I just don't. Even if you had put them in there, because I think this one's too close to call. The
Okay,
CAB
you don't have faith in Tigers yet. Yeah, you've ignored us every time we've backed the Tigers, and we've been right every week.
Look, the Tigers are in 11th, and the Knights are in 9th. Okay, so to have faith in the Tigers, who are playing a team above them, takes some doing. The Knights are $1.65, but I say the Tigers at $2.25. I think the Tigers are closer than that. I don't think I personally.
Yeah, so that is it. Anything else you want to add before we let people go?
I think that's it.
We survived a show without Richard.
What do you survive to go there? You brought on the talent off the bench.
Yeah. And shameless plug before we do the thing. Hammer from Ruin Hammer is unable to do his show as well, because unlike Rue and myself, he commits work over these shows. So I am jumping on to help Rue tonight. So if you watch Ruin Hammer, you'll see my face again in what's the time? In like 10 minutes or so, I think.
So head over to Ruin Hammer's Facebook page, because he's going to be live in 5 minutes.
I'll be there too. Yeah, if you want to hear more Brad, that's where you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in and joining us.
Brad, ladies and gentlemen, that's
yeah. Thank you for tuning in with the standoff with Brad and Richie. Should say Brad and Paul this week. For your weekly update on rugby league, tune into the show next Wednesday at 8 p.m. here on Facebook or YouTube, or at your convenience on iHeartRadio or Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Thank you again, Paul, for joining and helping me out here. And good night, everyone.
Good night.